MHA just ended few weeks ago, so let's talk about it. I didn't think that I would be making a video on MHA, but since in the last 2 months or so I have been taking content creation more seriously, so I figured, hey, since MHA manga just ended recently, what's holding me back from making a video about it? So here we are, talking about all the positives and negatives of My Hero Academia. The world of MHA is very simple. It's pretty much just like our own world, with the exception of 80% of the population that have superpowers that they were born with called quirks. This little aspect of people having superpowers already makes a change in this world, since some of the people abuse their powers for their personal gain, and some other people took the initiative and tried to stop these criminals, and thus the world of My Hero Academia has been separated into heroes and villains. The story follows a young boy, Izuku Midoriya, also known as Deku, as this is his nickname in the anime, on the adventure to become the #1 hero just like his idol All Might. As a kid, Deku though has been diagnosed with no bitches, Deku has been diagnosed as a quirkless individual, which quickly makes his dream go to ruin. Everything I just said is cool and all, but how did MHA manage to get to so many people as one of the most popular anime and manga out there? Deku at first was a likable main character, he was bullied in school for being quirkless, as this can be relatable to many of us here, and he also wasn't an idiot MC, because every other shonen MC is apparently stupid or oblivious, as he used to collect data on heroes in his notebook. This notebook is more important than some people might think, as this was his last stray of hope of ever becoming a hero. He was devastated when he encountered All Might and he told him that he couldn't become a hero without a quirk, which was the last straw that made Deku hopeless, as it seems that he could never become a true pro hero. In other battle shonen, the main character with a special power would be born with that power, as they were the chosen one all along, but that's not the case in My Hero, as Deku was born without any power. The power he has, All for One, was given to him by All Might after his heroic rush towards Bakugo, who was being held hostage by a villain, as All Might believed that Deku deserved this power. This moment breaks Deku again, but in a good way, as he never thought that this moment would come true, because he already in his heart accepted the reality of never becoming a hero. Not only that, but Deku cannot control his power quite yet, since he breaks his body when he uses his power one for all. By the words of Eraserhead, he can't be a proper hero since he's gonna save only one person, and that would be it for him, unless he would get a healing help from some other hero, so that's why he had to settle with using each of his fingers instead of his full arm. Deku also had to use martial arts, as he did in his fight against Bakugo in season 1, since he cannot control his power quite yet, although we never really see him do this again after he gets the hang of One for All. The show doesn't stop there. Even though My Hero is separated into heroes and villains, you can clearly tell that not every villain is your stereotypical evil, and not every hero is necessarily good. You can tell that Endeavor in reality isn't your idealistic hero, as he's an abusive father who trains his kids to become the #1 hero. He is like this because he himself couldn't become the #1 hero because All Might exists, so he had kids with a mother that could genetically combine their quirks to make a hero with a great potential, like Todoroki, who has half of his mother's quirk and half of his father's. There are other heroes that are heroes only for money and reputation, and even though it doesn't make them evil, their intentions definitely set them apart. The villains aren't your typical antagonists, as all of them are societal dropouts that join villain groups, since they were the only ones to accept such societal failures. It all started with All for One, when he was taken and giving quirks or requests to people who then became his subordinates. You can see especially with Shigaraki's backstory that was shown at the end of season 5. Shigaraki was basically living in a hostile household, and when his quirk emerged and went out of control, there was no one to save the day, and even though he was roaming around the city, no one was there to take care of him. Every other member of League of Villains aside from Shigaraki basically tried to carry on Stain's will of exposing fake heroes from the real ones. Almost all of Class 1A are likable characters, not every single one of them, but mostly they are just fine. You can clearly have your favorite character being different based on your taste in characters, as I don't think anyone would fault you for it. My personal favorite from Class 1A has to be Todoroki. Todoroki is a great character, because not only that at the beginning he was rejecting his father's half of his power, and he also never received love from his mother because of how much Todoroki reminded her of Endeavor, so that's why Todoroki seemed to be pretty emotionless in terms of personality, since he lacked mother's love. His character arc is pretty much about self-acceptance. There are some other Class 1A characters that are also pretty solid. Uraraka's motivation to become a hero, so she would get money for her family, is also pretty heartwarming. Ida's arc in season 2 with Sten was also pretty good. Bakugo was definitely an unlikable character at the first, and stays like this for most most of the series. Yayorozu also had a decent character arc when she was doubting her hero abilities. At the end of season 1, when we got the fight with Nomu and All Might, we got to see All Might's full power, which gave my hero the strength ceiling. Remember in Naruto when Orochimaru was going up against the third Hokage, the Anbu ninjas were saying stuff like, "Wow, the second Hokage is creating water out of thin air, what a Kage level battle they are having." Meanwhile at the end of the series they were having kaiju battles that make the early battles in pre-time skip Naruto look like child's play. The strength ceiling that was never broken gives the series the sense of consistency which I really like. One last positive that I will give to my hero is the fact that when quirks mix with each generation, that quirks are gonna go out of control, which gives the world of my hero more complexity. Now that we have the positives out of the way, let's look at some negatives that the series has. Even though Class A are likable characters, they're not very memorable, and aside from the characters I talked about in the positive section, the rest of them don't really see any development, and their personality doesn't shine all the way through. And even if they had a character arc, after their arc, they would just disappear and didn't have much of a screen time afterwards. A lot of the fights aren't really that great, and even though not everyone is born equal and some quirks are stronger than others, they lack flexibility and room for improvement. The fights also lack strategy of Naruto or JoJo fights, although I do appreciate them adding support items like Bakugo's Gauntlet or Kaminari's shooting discs. But All Might vs All for One was so anticlimactic, man. All for One could have used so many different abilities against All Might, but he just made his arm huge and it all ended in one punch. I repeat, one of the biggest fights in the series ended in just one punch. Are you freaking kidding me? You could also argue that Deku did not deserve One for All. His actions that convinced All Might to pass on his power to Deku wasn't really selfless, but more so stupid because he had no chance of helping Bakugo at all. I mean, he could have given his power to Mirio, as he was already an established hero anyway. Talking about One for All, the power of One for All is just way too generic. Even though Deku did unlock the powers of the previous One for All users, for half of the series he just had basic super strength. I don't get why the main characters of most battle shonen have generic abilities. Naruto, Shidokun and Rasengan, which is just a ball of chakra. Ichigo, with every transformation he gets only faster and stronger. Asta, nullifying magic. All Might didn't even properly explain to Deku how to use his new power, which is kinda weird as he had to learn that from Gran Torino that Deku was at the moment training under. The concept of Deku taking notes and being smart was thrown out of the window, as Deku did a friendship punch against Muscular at season 3. There's also lack of depth in My Hero Society, as we know nothing about quirkless people. Wouldn't you think that there would be some kind of oppression of quirkless people, or some different policy for quirkless individuals? And if not oppression, there should be a group of people doing something like Pride Month for quirkless individuals. About 20% of My Hero's population is quirkless, but aside from Deku, All Might and Aoyama, before they got their quirks, we never heard of anyone being actually quirkless. There's also no quirkless hero or a villain, which shows another lack of society's depth. I feel like Stain would be a much better villain if he was quirkless. His quirk doesn't even make any sense anyway. He digests blood from his opponents and they get paralyzed for a period of time. He drinks the blood outside of his opponent's body and it somehow affects them. If he was quirkless and he would just poison his knives, we would get to see what quirkless individuals can do and how dangerous they can be with support items. The last negative that we have here is the fact that every other arc in the series is a training arc that doesn't talk about the society. Most of these training arcs are boring as hell. I understand that it doesn't need to be all action, that the series is gonna be taking little breaks after climactic villain arcs, but these training arcs take half a season and they are not even that entertaining. It doesn't need to be all fights. Part like Overhaul joining forces with Shigaraki was interesting to me and I wish we had more of this. I didn't mind the first training arc, the series was just building up and there was no momentum to be destroyed, but I wish that after season 2 they would focus more on the societal problems rather than training arcs. At the end of season 4, when we have arc with villains, the anime focuses on gentle criminal making whatever videos instead of focusing on society. This is just ridiculous. I mean, I like gentle criminal's backstory, but the whole mini arc felt like it was just a B-tier filler that wasn't in the manga. Not all training arcs are bad. The one at the end of season 2 was pretty good because the students of class 1A were in teams of 2 against 1 teacher in a matchup that wasn't going in their favor, which exposed the students' weaknesses. But seriously, who cared about class A versus class B training arc? It didn't add anything to the story at all. We are at season 5 and we still get these boring training arcs. If it were only episodes or 2, I wouldn't have said a word. For instance, the Christmas episode at season 5 was fine, I had no problems with that, but that was just one episode, not half a season. Well, at least they didn't have have any training arcs after season 6. Imagine how much it would destroy the momentum of the series if they had a training arc after such a climactic part of the story. Before we get into the final part of the video, I just want to give a heads up because I'm gonna be talking about stuff that happened in the manga that hasn't been adapted in the anime yet. So here's a spoiler warning, so click off this video if you don't want to be spoiled. You have been warned. The series has been going in this serious vibe that it had never had before because after the climactic battle in season 6. Now my hero is in a part of the story where there is no turning back, and I love that about it. My only complaint about the part of the story is that it could have been a bit longer. The final battle was pretty insane if you ask me. The entire thing spanned over 80 chapters, making it the longest arc in the series. I didn't at all expect stuff like Stain helping All Might in his battle against All for One, but here we are. Dabi is a great character. He just wanted to be loved and acknowledged by his father, but he couldn't get any of that because in the eyes of Endeavor, Dabi was just a failure that could never surpass All Might, because even though his feelings were stronger than his dad's, he had his body after his mother, so he wasn't very heat resistant. His entire existence has been foreshadowed since season 2, when Todoroki explained his family to Deku about Endeavor and how he wanted to create the #1 hero that would surpass All Might. The end of his character seemed to be rather tragic, as he is soon to die after the battle with Endeavor. At the end of the series, my hero does a generic trope of saving the villain instead of just killing him. Some other battle shonen have done it, and I don't really have a huge problem with it. It just shows Deku's personality and how he wants to save everyone around him. Deku dived deep into Shigaraki's consciousness. In his consciousness, Deku saw how his life was in his home before he became a villain. Shigaraki is also a sad character, as he didn't even understand the reason behind his power, as in his own words he said, "I destroyed my house and my family out of my own volition. Who would be able to explain why I was born this way?" It was also pretty crazy to find out that All for One gave him this power. It was also nice to see so many characters helping Deku with the final battle against Shigaraki. In the end, it all ended well, like in almost any other battle shonen, and thus, one of the biggest anime and manga series came to an end. Overall, I think my hero is a pretty solid shonen. It's not as good as some, it's better than others, and I would say it's more or less middle of the road of anime like it is probably for many people. As a superpower anime, I much preferred anime like Bungo Stray Dogs, that to me has better world, superpowers and characters, so definitely go check that out if you haven't already. There's also another superhero anime called Tiger and Bunny. I haven't seen it yet, but it is apparently a superhero anime that some people prefer over my hero, but let me know in the comments below how good Tiger Bunny is, or if it's something I have to check out. Let me know in the comments how do you feel about my hero, and how did you like the ending if you've read it. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. Definitely hit the like button or maybe even subscribe. That would definitely help the channel. Have a nice rest of the day, and until next time, see ya later.